The infamous activity plan. Let's take you through each of these steps so that you know exactly what to do. Let's start off right over here with the theme or topic of interest. I don't know what it is about this, but students often have such a hard time with it, and it's really easy. It's basically what your activity is about. What is the theme? What is the focus? Let's say you're doing an art activity that involves kitchen utensils, right? Then your theme or topic would be just that, kitchen utensils. Let's say you're doing an activity where children are using watercolors and droppers to paint on butcher paper. Then you would say colors. Let's assume that you are doing an activity that involves marble art. You take a bunch of marbles, you put paint in it, and the children are shaking it and moving it around in a box. The theme or topic isn't marbles, right? Marbles is just the material that you're using for your art. Your focus is on the children moving the marbles around, so it would be motion or movement. It's very easy. Just think of, what am I focusing on this specific activity? And that's your theme or topic. Now let's move on to the section that says activity right over here. First, you start off with a catchy or clever name. Make it creative. Ooey gooey art. Ready, set, go in motion. I don't know. Think of something that is catchy and creative and that people are going to say, ooh, that sounds kind of interesting. I want to know what that's about. Avoid bland and generic titles like color mixing, kitchen utensils art, marble art. Make it interesting. And then the part that almost every student forgets, I don't know why, is a description of the activity. I don't know what your activity is about. Neither does your audience. So that description is very useful in allowing people to know what you're actually going to do and if this is even interesting. Remember, time is money. People don't want to read through your whole activity to know what it's about. They want to know, okay, give me a sneak peek. What am I in for? And you want to tease them, right? You want to give them an activity that is going to say, hey, you're going to read just this little portion and then realize how awesome my activity is that you're going to continue to keep reading. So I'm just giving you a little tease of what's to come. Keep it short and sweet, but detailed. Don't say an art activity with paint. Okay, but what exactly? Say children will be using kitchen utensils to paint on butcher paper. Children will be using marbles and a box to move around and create an art piece. See how specific that is, but short? It should be no more than a sentence long. Now let's move on to appropriate age. List one age and one age only. I'm going to repeat that one more time because I guarantee that 90% of you will put several ages here. Put one age and one age only. Think of the ideal or the perfect age for this activity. Maybe it's for 4-year-olds, or 3 or 5, but don't put 3 to 5. What a 5-year-old can do, a 3-year-old can't. So you can't list a wide range of ages. Stick with one and one only. Now let's move on to your materials. All I have to say about this section is be specific. You know what you're doing and you know what you need to get it done. But I don't know what you need. Your audience doesn't. If you are using paint, specify what type. There are so many types of paints. If you are using, let's say, brushes, indicate how many. If you're using containers, tell me the size or the quantity. If you're using water, how much water am I going to need? 1 cup, 1 gallon? Be specific and detailed. If you're using crayons, indicate, or paper. There's so many types of paper. White paper, construction paper, tissue paper. Be specific. Now let's move on to the procedures. This is where you're going to give us step-by-step instructions. Do not write a whole paragraph with the instructions. Break it down in bullet points or number 1, number 2, so that we can easily read through each step. Be sure that you are talking to an audience. You're not talking to me. You're talking to an audience that is on the other end, whether it's families, your teachers or staff, or myself. So make it generic. Don't say I. Talk to them. You will start off or just start off instead of I. Remove any personal pronouns. And you also want to make sure that you're very specific here. Remember, we haven't done your activity. We don't know what it's about. Give us everything that you're going to need to get your activity done. Now let's move on to the most important piece of this activity plan. Questions. Remember that our work with young children isn't about creating lessons and plans. It's about relationship building. And that can only occur with our conversations with young children. So that's why these questions are so important, because they allow us to create dialogue back and forth between us and the children. That's how we get to know them. That's what we get to know what their abilities are, what their interests are. So to me, this is right here where the money is, the questions. At least include 3 divergent, that means open-ended questions. And students, again, have such a hard time with this. The key to remembering what an open-ended question is ask yourself the question out loud. Can you do this? That's a yes or no answer. That means it's not open-ended. Will you do this? That also leads to a yes or no. It is not open-ended. Or even questions that are favorite or like. I get that all the time with students. What was your favorite part of this activity? That is not creative. That is not going to tap into those higher level thinking skills. And you only have one favorite, right? You can't have a lot of favorites. So that's not an open-ended question. It leads to one answer and one appropriate answer. Or these test questions, right? What did you notice? Be open-ended and creative, where children are actually going to use their brain to think about an answer, right? Start with questions that begin with what, how, or why. These are those higher level thinking skills that you want to tap into. Avoid what is your favorite, what did you like? Those are the go-to cliche cookie cutter questions that do not lead to higher level thinking skills. I'm really going to look at these questions very, very, very closely. And lastly, we have our modifications. Remember that some of these families and parents are going to attempt to replicate your activities, and you want to make sure that you're using materials that are easily available to them. Water is, right? Sometimes flour as well. Think of things that they have in their home that you can easily use. Soap, dish soap. If there are any modifications that can be used, add them on there. For instance, let's say that you need a glue and parents don't have a glue. You can use a glue stick or a glue gun or whatever it is. Or let's say you're asking for popsicle sticks or craft sticks. You can say use a Q-tip instead, or use a toothpick, right? Or a paintbrush. Give them modifications so that if they don't have this material, they can use that instead. And there you have it, your completed lesson or activity plan. Voila!